Hello orchid addicts of all various colors and shapes. It's me, Leonard, and today I decided to bring you a whole collection update for the month of January 2019. In this first part I'm going to show you all of my Phalaenopsis, my Oncidiums and also Vandas. Today is quite a beautiful day. There's a lot of sunlight, even though the sun is relatively low right now in the middle of the winter. I decided that to not take use of this opportunity is a sin. So here you can see my favorite orchid in my whole collection. This is called Phalaenopsis violacea, variation Indigo. I purchased this orchid on the April of 2018. It was quite costly and it comes from the Norton strain. And H.P. Norton is the man who used to breed Cerulean type violaceas. And this is apparently a very fragrant Phalaenopsis, but it has not bloomed yet for me. So maybe this coming summer it will be blooming. Also, this orchid is right now in its winter rest period, so it's not working on any new growths. Another Phalaenopsis species. This one is called Phalaenopsis tetraspis and the variation is C1. It is also known by the synonym, which I assume is the synonym, Phalaenopsis speciosa variation Christiana or Cristata, I don't remember specifically. But this is a white colored Phalaenopsis which has usually a red pattern on its blooms, which can be different in every new bloom. So this makes this species very unique, this variation, and it's also fragrant. It has not bloomed for me, and I ordered it in the October of 2018. This is my Phalaenopsis Cauda Twinkle. I ordered it in the October of 2018, and I will also link the nurseries I ordered my orchids from in the description of this video amongst the names of these plants. Take a look at those. So one of the parents of this hybrid is Phalaenopsis schilleriana, and this is also a fragrant hybrid. It's a young plant and it hasn't bloomed for me yet. Also, it has very poor root system. As you can see, it's quite wibbly in its pot, but it's going to hopefully recover and start to bloom this following growth season. Currently it is in its winter rest period, as most of my Phalaenopsis are if they aren't blooming. As you can see here, finally I present you with something bigger. This is a hybrid between 3 species, and it's also very popular Phalaenopsis hybrid. This is the Sweet Memory cultivar Leodoro. I ordered it in the May of 2018 and it came to me with 2 flower spikes which had blooms. It created during the winter another new flower spike, which you are not going to be able to see very well, but it's currently starting to work on some new buds, so maybe it's going to bloom in the following months or so. This is a fragrant Phalaenopsis and it smells a lot like fruit to me. This is a vigorous plant which I've potted up recently in sphagnum moss. And I am not going to be cutting off any of its flower spikes because it is known to be a sequential bloomer. This is another big Phalaenopsis. This is what I identified to be Phalaenopsis sogoshito, and I purchased it in the November of 2017. It's a novelty hybrid and it's quite vigorous, but unfortunately it recently lost most of its roots, so currently it's recovering, but I have no doubt that it will recover completely and be very impressive the following years. As you can see here, it's in bloom and the bloom is a gorgeous golden yellow, and it also possesses a fragrance of sugary and slightly spicy lemons, maybe some kind of a lemon dessert. It's truly a glorious orchid. And it's also been used in the Phalaenopsis breeding project, which I recently started working on. Oh wow, what is this ginormous thing in front of us? Well, this is my first ever orchid. This is my no ID pink Phalaenopsis, which my family has had for at least 14 years, I don't know specifically. And I'm 22 by the way, so this means this orchid has been in our possession since I was 8, so yeah, I don't even remember when we first got it. And this orchid is used in my Phalaenopsis breeding project. This bloom has been currently pollinated. It was pollinated yesterday, so it is not showing any signs of fertilization as of yet. But it has these gorgeous, medium-sized, pale pink blooms which remind you a lot of Phalaenopsis schelleriana. But it's not fragrant, although it compensates with beautiful leaf mottling pattern, which I find very unique and amusing. Here you can see another one of my family's very old orchids. This is a no ID white Phalaenopsis. And as you can see, it has very vigorous growth, a very abundant root system, and very big, rather unpractical leaves. But nevertheless, I find them very beautiful. It's usually put by a shelf where the pot is raised up so the leaves aren't mangled. Here you can see it's just starting to open its blooms, and the diameter of them is 13 centimeters. It's a ginormous Phalaenopsis bloom. I don't know, maybe this is Phalaenopsis sogo-Euclidean, but as I looked at the pictures, the lip does not quite match what the hybrid is supposed to have, so this is overall a no ID. And it also must be polyploid, because a lot of the orchids which have very large flower sizes, well, specifically Phalaenopsis, tend to be polyploids, and I'm not going to go into detail of what that actually means. I'm just going to say that it makes breeding a little impractical, a little more tedious. The leaves on this one are very big, but also unfortunately I do believe this orchid suffers from what is known as the orchid fleck virus, as you can see by this pitting on these leaves. And no, it definitely does not have any spider mites, and it's highly unlikely in my opinion that this is cold damage, so I believe this is the orchid fleck virus. This is sun damage, but this pitting was formed quite recently on a new leaf. But in any case, it doesn't seem to be affecting this orchid's health in any significant way. It's very vigorous. It does not possess a fragrance. Gotta sip some tea while transitioning to another category. Oh, so lovely. In the morning, it's currently 11 AM. So here is a perfect transitional plant from the category of Phalaenopsis to Vandaceous orchid types. This is a Vanda and Oncidium, and you heard it right, this is a hybrid between a Phalaenopsis and a Vanda. And this one is called Irene Dobkin Cultivar Elmhurst. And it's a very amusing orchid which has not bloomed for me as of yet, and I purchased it in the June of 2018. So far it has grown quite a bit, and it's currently working on a new leaf. It grows quite slowly, but I do not think that this orchid is very finicky. I'm not a specialist on its care, but I have it planted in sphagnum moss. This orchid is supposed to have very gorgeous Phalaenopsis-like, but pale orangey flowers, so I can't wait until this orchid's going to mature and show me what it got. Here you can see my first ever Vanda. I purchased it in the April of 2018. You might notice that by far my orchids are very recent acquisitions. And this is a species known as Vanda cerulean. It possesses a very vivid blue color, and it's one of the parent species of very many famous Vanda hybrids with big flowers. This orchid has not bloomed for me as of yet, but it's a vigorous grower. I have it currently put in a basket, but it usually grows aerially by one of my windows, and I usually just spritz it with some mildly fertilized water. My Vandaceous orchid collection isn't big by any means, but it surely is very diverse. And here you can see my Angraecum sesquipedale. I purchased this orchid in April of 2018, and it has not bloomed for me as of yet. But it certainly is a vigorous grower, and it produces these very long, thick leaves, which have a similar shape to Vanda's. But this is a young plant, so you can expect it to get a whole lot bigger than this. I have it planted in a typical bark medium, and it seems to be doing very well. I have nothing much more to add to this, but I might make a care guide later when this orchid creates some blooms. Well, that was a quick wrap of the Vandaceous orchid category, but nevertheless, let's take another sip of the tea. Alright, here you can see a very glorious Oncidium type orchid, which is classified as Belara Tahoma Glacier, or currently as Alisara Tahoma Glacier. What this means, this is a hybrid between Oncidium, Brassia, and Odontoglossum, and maybe something else. Nobody knows, except Blue Nanta knows. Check it out. So anyhow, this is a rescue orchid. This is the only pseudobulb it has left from its original base, because the other ones desiccated and died off. So last year it created this very big plump new pseudobulb, but it didn't have big leaves because it was very set back. But I'm very proud of how it's recovering. It's a very strong hybrid. As you can see, these ridges are a sign that this orchid could use some water, as Oncidiums usually don't want to go dry for too long, and I'll be watering this today. But you can see it has a very big, luscious new growth in the background. It has not started working on its pseudobulb, neither on its flower spikes, but I think the blooms this will put out are going to be glorious, because this one already put out glorious blooms, as you can see by this picture. So I don't know what gloriousness I could expect from this growth. It is not exactly mature yet, so it might get even bigger. So I'm starting to realize that this little compact Oncidium type is actually a bit of a monster, and that's quite exciting. This orchid is Miltonia Honolulu, a cultivar Varn's Best, and it's a gorgeous purple colored Miltonia, as you can see by this picture, and it possesses a very pleasant, powdery fragrance of raspberries. As you can see, this orchid is not exactly the happiest. It has a bit of accordion pattern on its leaves, showing that the orchid's dehydrated, and also its pseudobulbs are a bit shriveled. But this orchid is not, on a downward spiral by any means. It is just yet to produce a new root system. As you can see, something is going on here. But yeah, this is perhaps maybe a bit too big pot for this kind of an orchid. But in any case, it's producing many new growth leads, as you can see. So they are sure to fill the pot up very soon. The downside to my country's winter seasons is that there is very little sunlight. So orchids tend to grow quite slowly. So the recovering process might take much more longer than in other climates. This is the last of my Oncidium type orchids. and by all standards this is the one which is doing the worst. This is my no ID Brassia hybrid, and my family has had it for multiple years, maybe 5, maybe 6, I don't know specifically. This orchid is a rescue plant, and as you can see it's not exactly doing the best it could have. In this pod there are actually potted 2 separate divisions, because the original plant actually had about 5 plants growing in the same pot. And that's not a very good thing in my opinion, because you have a lot of small growths which have a lower chance of surviving. And when I started to rescue this orchid approximately 1.5 years ago, 2 of the little divisions died off because of lack of roots. And recently I gave one of the healthier divisions away to one of my friends in my country. So currently I'm left with 2 divisions who all have pretty shriveled pseudobulbs and a poor root system. And it is also potted in a far too big of a pot, so I'm going to be replanting this orchid in a smaller pot quite soon. As you can see, one of the divisions is creating a strong new growth, which is also starting to produce some roots. I don't know if you can see them, but this orchid is showing promising signs of recovery. But an interesting thing is, last summer this plant actually created 3 flower spikes on all 3 of its separate divisions. So that's quite impressive. But I'm also afraid another one of the divisions will be dying off. It's horribly shriveled and it has a very poor root system. But I doubt you can see, but this pseudobulb is pushing something out, so I haven't given up hope on it yet. But as you can see, this pseudobulb is completely dried up, and this leaf is dropping, which are bad signs of health. So let's hold our thumbs up for the successful recovery and escalating to monstrous sizes of this orchid. And lastly, a little bit of an outcast of the Oncidium category. This is my one and only Zygopetalum type, and this one is called Zygonesia Murasaki Komachi. I purchased it at August of 2018, and I also featured it in my orchid garden unboxing video. This orchid is a little bit set back. This is a cool grower, and in its reporting it lost most of its roots. I'm going to try to show you, but as you can see it's starting to work on a new root system. It came to me with this new growth, and in my care it matured this pseudobulb. Afterwards, it lost all of the leaves on its only older pseudobulb. It had a seedling pseudobulb, which I took off, and right now it's starting to work on 3 new growths. This might seem a bit extreme, but originally it worked on like approximately 5 new growths, but a couple of them rotted away because I potted this plant too deep in sphagnum moss. An interesting thing about these growths, you can distinctly see which is the more strong one and which is the least strong one. But hopefully this plant will be recovering very swiftly, and maybe we will see some beautiful cerulean type blooms from it this year.